Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on serving meals on weekends and holidays. My name is Allison Perez, and I am a Child Nutrition Policy Analyst with the Food Research and Action Center, or FRAC. Thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation. We know how busy everyone is, and we really appreciate your interest and your participation. We wanted to host this webinar because we know that across the country, children and families are continuing to deal with the impacts of COVID-19 on food insecurity. Serving meals on weekends and holidays through the Summer Food Service Program, or SFSP, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program, or CACFP, at-risk after-school meals is a great way to tackle ongoing food insecurity during times when school meals are not available. Weekend and holiday meal service was an option before the pandemic through these programs, and thanks to USDA waivers and guidance, this remains an option during the pandemic through the end of the 2020-2021 school year. These waivers include allowing meal sites to provide up to a week's worth of meals and other flexibilities which help support weekend and holiday meal service. As the holiday season approaches, we know that there's an important opportunity coming up to ensure children receive healthy, nutritious meals, even on non-school food days. The goal of this webinar is to provide an overview of how serving weekend and holiday meals has functioned before and during COVID, to hear from speakers about their operations on non-school days, and to answer your questions to encourage more sites and sponsors to take advantage of underutilized flexibility for weekend and holiday meal service. So with that, we have a pretty full agenda today with great speakers, and now I just want to go over the schedule really quickly. First, I am going to give an overview of what weekend and holiday meal service looks like before the pandemic through SFSP and CACFP, and then discuss the flexibilities granted by USDA to continue to provide weekend and holiday meals to kids during COVID-19. Next, I'm really excited to hear from two site operators about how they have been and plan to continue serving weekend and holiday meals during the pandemic. First, we have Ann Levins, who's the Nutrition Services Supervisor at Central Point School District in number 6 in Oregon. And after that, we'll hear from Pam Supernant, Senior Executive Director of Youth Development in the Central Region of the YMCA of Central Massachusetts. And as Clarissa said earlier, we will be saving questions for the end, and please feel free to use the Q&A function on your screen to ask your questions. Next slide. So prior to COVID-19, program regulations allowed for sponsors operating CACFP at risk during the school year and SFSP during the summer to provide reimbursable meals on weekends and holidays. This flexibility is unique to programs that serve children when school is closed, and as such, there's no requirement for sites to serve meals during the regular school week to provide meals on weekends or during school holidays and breaks. Through SFSP or SSO, sites and sponsors can serve up to 2 meals or 1 meal and a snack, and that meal can be any combination except for a lunch and a supper. And through CACFP, you can serve 1 meal and 1 snack, either breakfast, lunch, or supper. Similar to during the traditional after-school hours, programs serving on weekends and holidays do need to provide some kind of educational or enrichment programs. Entities eligible to provide weekend and holiday meals include school nutrition programs and departments, local government agencies, and private nonprofits. In many cases, sites can seek out already established sponsors to source meals from, and sponsors can range from, again, school nutrition departments, YMCAs, parks and rec departments in your city and community, and more. Next slide. During the pandemic, USDA has issued guidance specifically related to weekend and holiday meals, stating in various Q&As that sites and sponsors operating SFSP and CACFP may serve meals through weekends and holidays in accordance with program regulations. This extends what is an option during normal times. This is important because as the spread of COVID-19 continues, we have seen food insecurity creep up in its wake. Research from Brookings has shown that amid the pandemic, more than 1 in 4 households, which 13.9 million children across the country, experience food insecurity. And I also want to flag that after-school activity is still required, which I'll dive into on the next slide. And it's important to note that serving weekend and holiday meals is only possible if you're currently running SFSP and/or CACFP, and it is not possible to receive reimbursement for these meals through the National School Lunch Program or through the School Breakfast Program. During COVID-19, the child nutrition programs have looked different than they have in the past, especially since many schools and sponsors across the country are serving meals through SFSP and CACFP, thanks to waiver flexibility granted by the USDA. Recently, USDA extended several child nutrition waivers through the rest of the 2020-2021 school year, and these waivers include a variety of flexibilities that support weekend and holiday meal service, including the ability to serve non-congregate meals, the ability for parents to pick up meals, and most importantly for our purposes, flexibility around meal service times, which allows multiple meals to be served at a time, up to 7 days worth. There's also flexibility about meeting the after-school enrichment requirement. Per USDA, activities can be virtual or take-home. CHCFP at-risk centers serving weekend meals must also provide weekend at-risk enrichment activities, either in person or virtually, on the weekend days for which meals are served. For example, if an at-risk center serves meals intended for consumption on Saturday, they must provide access to an enrichment activity on that Saturday. Next slide. In terms of logistics, it's important to maximize the number of meals kids are receiving, and in order to do so, combining a breakfast and lunch from SFSP with a supper and snack from CHCFP is the best way. Serving weekend and holiday meals can also help your operations bottom line, as more meals served will result in a higher reimbursement amount for your program. Based on our calculations, from today through the rest of the school year, weekend and holiday meals can make up more than 80 additional service days worth of reimbursable meals to help your operations bottom line. And because of the meal service time flexibilities through the USDA waivers, you don't have to operate your sites on weekends or holidays to serve meals for those days. You can just serve the meals alongside your regular meal service delivery or pickup times. And as always, make sure to contact your state agency before making any changes to your meal service model. Now, we know that weekend and holiday meal service will look different based on your community and capacity. So at this time, I'd like to really enthusiastically turn it over to our first speaker. Ann Levins is the Nutrition Services Supervisor at the Central Point School District number 6 in Oregon. Take it away, Ann.
Hi, all, and welcome. I'm so excited to be talking about this. I, as mentioned, work in Central Point School District. We are located close to the California border, right off Interstate 5. We have 8 schools, and our free and reduced is typically around 55%. This year, we would have added more schools to community eligibility, but with the pandemic, we're cruising along with the summer meal pattern. In March, school was canceled for all of Oregon students, and we quickly modified our meal service to be grab and go and mobile. Fortunately, we do a lot of catering, and we have a pretty decent summer program, so we had a lot of equipment kind of ready to use for that transition. Since March, we've been serving at 4 locations, grab and go style, or curbside, as some people call it. And we have started mobile routes as well in March. In the summertime, we added weekly meal pickup. And currently, we're offering weekly meal pickup at 2 locations. And that was mainly because our district is pretty spread out. We have out-of-town schools, as we call it, and in-town schools. We decided to start serving weekend meals in April, mainly because we thought if all these people are coming to get meals during the day, which was amazing, and we loved the support, but we knew that there was a need there for some food insecurity. We started with 1 weekend day a week in April, so we would distribute Saturday meals on Friday. And I have about the beginning of April, we decided we could probably start doing both days, Saturday and Sunday, starting in May. So we sort of did a slow transition on that, mainly because I didn't want to overwhelm my staff, and we kind of wanted to see what we could be successful with. We are running the summer food service program, and the meals that we're offering are breakfast and lunch. Most of our weekend meals consist of heat and serve entree items, mainly because we want to keep it simple for families. We're not sure what situations they have at home, so stuff that's easy for them to cook or for our kids to cook. We also took advantage of this as we had so much USDA foods inventory that we wanted to also take advantage of any possible way that we could serve all the food we have. Our current model, so we've I'm sure everyone feels the same. It kind of seems like it's constantly changing. We're transitioning to new programs. We have to serve differently. We're adding a school. So our current model is we distribute the weekend bags on the last day of the week. So if Friday is a no school day, we distribute on Thursday, and they get in their Thursday bag, they get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The slide shows the 4 compartment containers we're having a lot of success with. I don't know about all of you, but we've had a lot of commodity fruit to use, frozen and canned, and these 4 compartment containers have been great for the weekend bags, where we can do frozen blueberries, frozen strawberries, applesauce, canned peaches, and then we freeze it all, and then we put it into the bag on Thursday or Friday, depending on the school week, frozen, and as it's sitting, as we're waiting to serve, it keeps everything cold. For the entree items, we're bagging them, foil wrapping. It kind of depends on what it is. That nothing's too fancy there. And in October, we rolled out a few items that we kind of consider to be a little more fun for the weekend. And this picture shows our build your own pizza. We have a lot of commodity mozzarella cheese because normally we're making a lot of pizza when we have kids in school. And while we are serving pizza grab and go, definitely not the volume we would if school was in session. And we've got a lot of great feedback on this item, and we thought it was pretty fun. They can eat it without cooking it, or they can cook their own little pizza. Let's see here. And for us, this was really a benefit to our community and our bottom line. While we're serving a lot of students and our breakfast participation is up significantly since we are serving breakfast and lunch together, our lunch participation is still shy of what we would do on a regular school day. But by adding weekend meals, we're now serving just as much as we would during the regular school year. And for me, I wanted to make sure that, one, we can keep the integrity financially of our program, and two, my team, my staff, we all really enjoy working, and I didn't want to be in a position where we needed to reduce hours or lay staff off. And adding weekend meals has really been able to stretch that and keep everyone on staff. We are not doing CACFP. At this point, we can't add any more programs. We actually need to hire staff, and we're having a hard time finding people to work. So we don't do any enrichment activities currently. And we are really excited about Thanksgiving. Our school district will be closed that week. So what we've done is created a flyer or a Google form. So all of our weekly meals, we ask that they register, really so that we can keep track of how many we need to be preparing for and how much milk we need to be ordering and what we need to be ordering for produce. We don't turn anyone away, but it just helps for planning purposes. So we started advertising for Thanksgiving last week, And we'll be offering 7 days worth of meals for pickup on Monday and Tuesday of that week to cover all of our families that need access to food, as we will have our grab and go sites and our mobile routes closed. And then we will do the same thing for Christmas break. We will have a weekly meal pickup on the first Monday and Tuesday and the second Monday and Tuesday of that break. And we will do something similar. We'll have a registration for them just so we can make sure that we're prepared for all the families that might want to take advantage of that. And I encourage everyone that I talk to really consider adding weekend meals to your program. One, especially if your community is in need. I'm out in my schools every day. I'm actually out of school right now working. The feedback we're getting is that this has been such a help for families that if you can, I would say do it. And then a side note for us, we kind of start planning or preparing our weekly stuff on Monday. So they kind of build in pieces of each bag for prep Monday through Thursday. So Friday, they're ready to put everything in the bag. And I'm happy to help with any of that or answer any questions about those pieces, because it is a little more work and a little trickier. I think that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you so much for that really awesome insight, Anne. Well, now I'd like to introduce our second speaker, Pam Supernant, who currently serves as the Senior Executive Director of Youth Development in the Central Region of the YMCA of Central Massachusetts. Pam?
Hi, thank you so much, Allison, for having me on the call. And Anne, I loved hearing about all of that. And I think I want to hear more about the pizzas and the 4-container things for fruit. That's amazing. So I'm going to talk about weekend meals in a little bit more of a roundabout way. So I work at a YMCA. We have about a $25 million budget, 6 branches in central Massachusetts. Worcester is the second largest city in New England. So when you think about all of the New England states, we're actually in the second largest city. And like many of you, pre-pandemic, we were running traditional food programs with serving early ed and after school programs. We had food for our teenagers and our summer programs. We also did food in housing complexes and parks, the traditional things that I'm sure that you guys all do. And then, of course, we served about 100,000 meals a year, and we thought we were great. We thought, wow, we are just killing it when it comes to food programs. And then March came, and the state and the country shut down, and everything changed. So we are our own CACFP sponsor, but we are not proud. And we have so many different programs in so many different places that we partner with other sponsors sometimes. Sometimes it's SFSP, sometimes it's a CACFP sponsor. It really is about capacity and resources and what program you're doing. So at any one time, I could have multiple things going on. So don't be afraid to think, well, that's SFSP and we don't do that. Don't be afraid to not always be the sponsor or be the sponsor of something else. So weekend meals. So the pandemic happened and our school district, just like Anne's, was amazing, jumped into action with SFSP and had 30 mobile sites across the city, which was great. You'd think that would be just perfect. But it wasn't, because nobody was coming to get the food. So we figured out it was weather, it was timing, it was people are afraid to leave their houses. They've got 5 kids at home, they don't have transportation, the walk is too far to these sites. So we're like, okay, what are we going to do? We need to bring the food to the people. Now, remember, we're a YMCA. We're not like a food distribution center by any stretch of the imagination. But as you can see, we had a YMCA van that we used to drive kids around in. So for the first week, we left the seats in the van, and then we figured out, okay, we can have more room if we pull the seats out. So we thought, well, let's call some people and see if they need food, and we'll deliver it to them. So we started with 2 vans, and, 100 kids, and we drove to their house and we dropped off a bag of food. Within a week, it had tripled in size. In 5 months, it's been 5 months since we started doing this, we have 8 vans. They do 15 different routes. It's over 1,000 addresses a day. We're serving 32,000+ meals a week. And this isn't our business. Like, we're literally driving to somebody's house and dropping off food, then the next house and the next house. It is a logistical nightmare when we talk about the food routes. But in 5 months, we've delivered 335,000 meals to families that otherwise would not have gotten their public school meals. So we did think that in the summer, this would slow down. We thought, okay, we're just going to do this until the pandemic is over, and then it never ended. And then you all know that summer, kids are even more vulnerable because school was out of session. So as we thought we'd be ramping down, we were really ramping up and needed to do more. And then, of course, now it's remote learning, and we're doing even more. So the way we fell into weekend meals was, all right, we're driving to everyone's house Monday through Friday and dropping off 3 meals a day. It was SFSP, and now it's a combination of SFSP and CACSP. Allison was great to point out that waiver that you can really combine them and get as many meals to kids per day as possible. So please take advantage of those waivers. So we're like, okay, we're bringing them food 5 days a week. What about the other 2? So literally, it was just a question to our vendor and said, could you give us triple the food? We didn't even, I love how Ann eased into doing it on Saturday, and then she added it on Sunday. We didn't even think like that. We just said, oh my gosh, let's on Friday deliver 3 times the meals, which means we needed 3 times the space in vans. We needed to actually pick up food, deliver it, go back and pick up more food, deliver it again. It kind of changed the system and the routes and the way we did it. We also needed volunteers. Like, this costs a lot of money, and there's not, you need to find ways to have cost savings. So for us, it was, finding one person who knew a bunch of people, and then they knew a bunch of people. We never had a good volunteer base to help us with our food program, and this has absolutely built a base. So we had a cadre of people that were volunteers, and on any given day, 10 to 20 of them would show up. We didn't care who. We didn't try to control it. We just knew we needed all hands on deck, because imagine I drive to your house, put the van in park, get out of the van, walk around, get the meals, bring them up to your house. So, we really needed runners to get in and out of the vans. So I think, for us, the way we grew it is we needed to borrow vans. We only had 2 vans, so we borrowed other vans. We got help with our volunteers. And the idea of the multiple days, every time we had a new idea, we thought, oh, why weren't we thinking of this sooner? So if we could do multiple meals on weekends and cover weekend meals, now we thought maybe we could do multiple meals on a Monday and have cohorts. So we kind of took the remote learning hybrid model and said, if there's a group of homes and addresses that we deliver to 3 times a week and drop off multiple days, then that frees us up other days to go to other addresses to drop off more food. So it literally nearly doubled the amount of houses that we could go to. It was entirely impactful for our community. It's been a silver lining that the community sees the YMCA as not just a gym and swim, but someone who really is a lifeline in the community. And I'm not kidding you when I say it just started with an idea and a van and a couple bags of food. Spreading the word was not hard. Word kind of spread like wildfire. We made an email address and a phone number that was dedicated, and literally all you had to do was say, I live at 766 Main Street and I've got 5 kids, and you are on the list for the next day and then added into our route. I know Allison was talking about enrichment activities. So on the weekends when we're delivering for CACSP, we do have to do an enrichment activity, and don't let that overwhelm you. There are so many people, cultural organizations, colleges, other groups and people that want to donate to you. We have them give us math kits and science experiments and scavenger hunts. We've had book donations. Our wellness team made up these 5-minute activity bursts. We wrote them out, and we're going to everybody's house, just drop it in the bag. And it didn't matter that some houses got a book and other houses got a jump rope and someone else got like a couple of ideas on how to do games. It really is just a way to keep connected, keep the kids moving, and absolutely incorporate the activities into what we're doing. I know that Anne also talked about the holidays, and we too are, I don't know that we're excited, we're nervous, and we want to take care of our families on the holiday. So we're changing our model up for the week of for that week, because we're not going to drive on Thursday, and we want parents to have enough food so they can plan. So we're delivering multiple meals. Again, use that waiver to deliver multiple meals Monday and Tuesday. And we had turkey donations, pie donations, table talk pie. If any of you are from New England, table talk pie is in our city. So everyone wants to donate things. So we're putting notes in bags and asking parents who wants a turkey, who wants a pie. It's not part of the reimbursable meals. We're still bringing them the reimbursable meals. But if we're driving to their house, we might as well drop off all of this other stuff as well. So it really is a win-win. Now, I talk really fast. I know this sounds like a lot, but I think if you're like, oh my God, why aren't we bringing food to people out where they can't get out? Winter is coming. We're in New England, so it's all about snow. It's dark, it's cold. People have COVID and are self-quarantined. They've got a lot of kids. Even walking 1 or 2 blocks with a couple bags of food for 3 or 4 kids is a lot to ask. So we think that we're going to be doing this through at least the end of the school year. So I would suggest that you start small. Just figure out, if you have the capacity, who's got a vehicle, who can be your sponsor, who's got the food, how do you find a vendor? We really did learn things as we went. You can see the bags, they had little address stickers on them. We literally labeled all the bags. It took hours every day because we wanted to make sure that this bag was going to this house, and then we realized it doesn't matter. All the food is the same. We just need to know that this house has 3 kids, and that house gets 5 kids. I will tell you, we're not rocket scientists, but we did kind of figure it out as we went and got better and more organized as we kind of moved along. We know that home delivery isn't the only key to the puzzle. I think that it's a lot of things, and when Anne was talking about weekend meals, what we're actually going to add in now is there are some people who do have transportation and could come and get meals, but not at the mobile sites and not where they are during the week when they've got remote learning and a job to do. So I know I can't do my grocery shopping until it's the weekend. So we actually got 6 of our youth serving organizations in Worcester to agree to be a food pickup site. So the school district is going to drive around and deliver all of the food on Saturday, and then it's going to be just an open pickup site so that people can come and get a week's worth of groceries. Now, they're a little bit nervous about what that's going to look like, so we're going to start, at one site, again, start small, figure out what the kinks are, and then work them out. But I think, for us, it's identifying that gap. And right now, it's weekend meals, it's home delivery, it's teenagers who are super food insecure. I think bringing food, it's surprising. You ask the number of kids in the household, and it's not just the 6 and 7-year-olds. It's also the 16 and 17-year-olds who need these nutritious meals brought to their homes. So for us, it's really about working together, asking questions, and I cannot stress enough how important your CACFP or SFSP state agency is. They are absolutely our best resource, these USDA waivers. I mean, I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for the extensions, but, use the people. There's someone in your city or your town or your state who can help you get started and answer some questions, and then you just ask the next question and the next question. And I'll stop talking if anybody has questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much to both of you. And Pam, I used to live in Boston, so I'm a huge Table Talk Pies fan. I know Table Talk Pie as well. But anyway, at this time, we will turn it over to questions. And to get us started, I have a question for both of our panelists, which is, how do you spread awareness to families about weekend meal service days? Do you use social media? Do you use flyers? Anything else?
This is Anne. When the pandemic hit, I truly embraced social media. I had been really putting that off, and that's been a really big tool for our district. I manage it. I have an Instagram account and a Facebook account, and if I post to Instagram, I post to Facebook. I rely a lot on some social media warrior mothers in our district that really share our stuff. And I also really rely on the schools that they send stuff out to their families, and word of mouth. Every time somebody comes in, we're thanking them. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell anyone you know that has kids. And I found a great tool. It's Canva, CANVA.com. It's a website where you can make free graphics that are ready to go to post to social media. And that's been some stuff that's been really helpful for us to get the word out.
I think that's a great question. And, you know, one of the things that we did when we're driving door to door, we're in neighborhoods and we put up flyers. So it's a 3-decker. There's a ton of apartment buildings or houses around. If someone is out bringing the food to the doorstep or up the 3 flights of stairs, somebody else is handing out or putting flyers in mailboxes, because if we're already driving to that neighborhood and that address, we might as well bring all of the children food if they're living there. So that was one way. Again, we definitely had an email and a phone number. We gave it to our local United Way. People call 211 for help on United Way. During the pandemic, special Facebook pages opened up, like aid sessions, or, you know, communities got together to ask a ton of questions around housing or employment or food or whatever it was. So we posted in those ways, but we also sent it out to our email networks and our funders. I did neglect to say that this work has brought us tens of thousands of philanthropic dollars. There is no one that does not want to help and feed kids, especially during this time. So the fact that we were doing it, you know, for all good reasons also brought a ton of money to the table, which we were able then to put back in the program. But we gave it to everyone in the world who then spread it and spread it and spread it. And we periodically do flyers, because we made an email address that said summer meals because we thought it was just summer. So we had to change our email address to Meals at Home because it's going to be year round.
All right. Well, I just also want to remind folks to please use the Q&A function if you have any other questions. And before I get started on our next question, which is, how are you tracking your meals and doing meal count sheets? And do you have to get authorized permission from parents in order to start delivery?
Well, I'll take that one first, and then Ann can pop in just because you mentioned delivery. So we do, you know, and they love that we are the keeper of the information. So if we were ever audited, like, we do have to keep, that's why it's the email address or the phone number. So if you call, I have to write down your name, your phone number, your address, and how many children are in your household. And we have to keep a record of that. And then that is literally permission, and that's the meal count. So we know that, or no, we give the school or our vendor the meal count and say, here are the number of addresses, here are the number of children, and that's how many meals they make for us. Does that make sense?
Pam, that made sense to me. And for us, we're not really doing delivery. It's really on a request basis. So all the families come to us and we're tracking head count as they arrive. We mark off how many meals they're picking up for, and then they're on their way, and we use the USDA tally sheets. And then for our weekly meal registrations, we have all of that on file through the Google form that they fill out. So we would have that if that was needed.
All right. Well, thank you both. And then another question that we have out is, were either of you serving the weekend backpacks before COVID, and what are you doing about those?
I'll hop in super quick because I work with a lot of other YMCAs across the country. Our YMCA was not doing weekend backpack meals, and this is an awesome question because the weekend backpack meals now count. You could not count them as reimbursable meals before the pandemic. Clarissa and Allison, jump in if I'm crazy, but now you can. So if you're doing weekend backpack meals, you should be reimbursed for them, right?
This is Clarissa. I mean, as long as if it's a backpack, but it's still meeting the summer food or the CACFP guidelines, then yes, it would count, but it has to, fall within those, the meal pattern standards.
Yes. Yep, for sure.
So we have some questions about finding a vendor if you're not a school district or a sponsor, and I'll go ahead and take that one. We recommend reaching out to your state agency, to fellow sponsors, or to a local anti-hunger organization for that. And then another question that we have is if teenagers in the range of 1 to 18 who are not students anymore pick up meals. And yes, and schools can provide meals to any child in the community under the current USDA waivers, so that's not an issue. And then another question for the weekend activities, we just provide worksheets or arts and crafts and things like that. You don't necessarily have to have an active Zoom meeting, and that is correct. You don't have to be have a structured event or activity to offer an enrichment activity under the CACFP standards. And then a question about, a couple questions about the about SSO, and schools participating in SSO can serve on weekends. That is, it's along the lines of the SFSP, so summer meals generally. So if you're operating SSO, you can serve meals on weekends. If your school is choosing not to operate summer meals right now, and you're only operating NSOP and SBP, then you can't offer reimbursable weekend meals. But if you're offering meals through SSO, you can indeed continue to serve weekend meals that are reimbursable. And you can bundle also CACFP and SFSP SSO meals. That's another question we got. You can offer both programs at the same time. And SFSP allows up to 2 meals, and CACFP allows up to 1 meal and a snack. And then another question that we have is, do you see a shift back to using bulk products and portioning meals? Is your staff getting back to production in your kitchen? This is for either Pam or Ann.
We have been doing bulk the whole time. So we don't really buy anything individually wrapped. We really transitioned to the same menu plan that we have, and we just kind of figured out how to serve it grab and go. We've invested a lot in packaging and containers that'll work, but it was really important to us. We do a lot of speed scratch and scratch cooking, and we really wanted to keep the integrity of our program and what our kids and families are used to during the school year. So we're doing a ton of production and just sending it out to go.
I think our vendors does a combination. I think they really don't have a ton of prepackaged, and they're definitely preparing it. But again, it's hard when, you want to think about the earth and all of the individual packaging. We don't, Anne pointed out that the kids and the families love the pizzas. They do. They miss the hot meals. A lot of sandwiches, a lot of fruits, a lot of cold meals. So I know when we sent that heated up breakfast sandwiches, it's like we invented fire. And then they got the pizzas and then hamburgers. So I think, but it came over time because they weren't really ready for it. So again, you've got to kind of the ebb and the flow of trying to figure out how you can do it and how to do it best. But I think for our vendor, it's a combination of bulk and prepackaged.
All right, well, we got another question about the CACFP, and yes, it does, CACFP snacks do require enrichment activities for all participants, as we said earlier in the webinar. And I encourage everybody to continue to answer questions in the Q&A function. We've got a lot of really, really good questions. Our next question is, we've heard that during the holidays, you can give out more than 7 days worth of meals at a time because it's a special circumstance. And I'm actually not sure that that is the case, but we can follow up with you separately to make sure to clarify that.
I noticed there was a question about record keeping. I love you, whoever asked, because that is so important. You want to make sure that you stay in your agency's good graces and make sure that you keep all of your records. So for us, when we're delivering, we deliver breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So the breakfast and lunch are SFSP and the dinner is CACFP. And we literally, I know that I'm taking 3 meals to your house, but we divvy it up so that we can say to SFSP when there's an audit, yep, here are the 2 meals we brought to this house. And then CACFP, yep, same address, same kid, but just 1 meal for CACFP. It's just kind of being mindful because we're not delivering some houses 2 meals and some houses 3. We want every house to get we want every house to get 3 meals for the kids that we can.
Awesome. Thank you for catching that, Pam. Well,
oh, sorry. I was going to say it's an interesting question about this more than 7 meals a day. I know for us, we really struggle. Most of our families have multiple children. And when we deliver more than 3 to 4 days, they run out of refrigerator room. They're in apartments with smaller refrigerators and the way it's packaged. Like you really, we're always trying to think of the user and making it user friendly and how it's going to sort of translate in the house and the homes of these people. So I love it if we could get them more meals and they didn't have to come out more as often, but I also just don't know how they'd have storage for it too.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we can go ahead and wrap things up. Thank you to all of you for joining us today, and a special thank you to Anne and Pam for joining us and for sharing your expertise. The recording and resources mentioned will be shared in a follow-up email. And in the meantime, please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions. Up on the screen, we have some resources about COVID-19 and the child nutrition waivers that you can find on FRAC's website. And please don't hesitate to reach out to me or to Clarissa if you have any questions. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks so much. It was nice to meet you, Anne. Bye-bye.